Next on stage is a familiar face to many of us, Cory Francer from NAPCO. Cory's an analyst with NAPCO Research, where he leads the team's coverage of dynamic and growing packaging markets. In 2024, TLMI helped sponsor NAPCO's digital packaging study. Cory's here today to share results from the study and some additional insights. Cory is the former editor-in-chief of Packaging Impressions, the most comprehensive source of business solutions for packaging printers and converters of labels, folding carton, flexible packaging, corrugated packaging, and displays. With a decade of experience as a professional journalist and editor, Cory brings an eye for storytelling to the packaging world, providing compelling insights into the industry's most pressing, no pun intended, pressing business issues. He is an active participant in many industry associations, and he has played an essential role in development of the annual Digital Packaging Summit. Please welcome Cory.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today and for taking the time to check out our session here. As Mark mentioned, my name is Cory Francer. I have been to TLMI meetings, many TLMI meetings over the years. It's been a few years since I've actually been to a TLMI conference, so I wanted to provide a quick update on what I've been doing since the last time I was with all of you. As Mark mentioned, my role has shifted. I was previously the editor of Packaging Impressions magazine, formerly Package Printing. Since then, I've transitioned over to the NAPCO research team, and I'll tell you a little bit about the team in a second. And what we do is we do surveys, research, data analysis, all sorts of digging into the printing world. I'm heading up our label and packaging research efforts, and as Mark mentioned, I've kind of gotten rolling on this annual digital packaging report that we launch at the Digital Packaging Summit, which I know several of you have been to, that we hold in Florida every November. TLMI was a sponsor of the report this year, and I'm going to share some results from that research effort today, and some additional data points as well. So just to get rolling, I wanted to say just a quick thank you to the research sponsors. TLMI, of course, played an essential role in launching this study, also BOPST, Fiery, and Screen. So thank you to all of the sponsors of this year's research report, which we do have copies as well here. I know they're getting distributed. They should be at the registration desk throughout the event. You can also download it. It's a free download from packagingimpressions.com as well. Check out the full report there. So just quickly, what I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to do a quick overview of the study. I'm going to talk about digital adoption in the label segment. The study covered all of packaging, but we're going to talk about labels today, of course. I'm going to talk about some brand owner trends driving digital and what some of the advantages that the technology is bringing to the brand owner side of things. We're going to talk about some of the efficiency benefits that digital can provide. Alan talked about the importance of efficiency going forward. We'll talk about the importance of pairing digital and conventional strategies to really to be efficient. We're going to talk about what's going on in versioning. That's a huge data point that we've been tracking over the years, versioning, SKU proliferation, and everything that comes along with that. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on from a sales side when it comes to digital printing, and then to close, just some general packaging trends that extend, beyond just digital, and then we'll leave you with some conclusions. So just a quick overview of the research team. I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of credit to the full team. There's 6 of us. A lot of times we're kind of behind the scenes at NAPCO and Printing United, which we're part of the Printing United Alliance as well. So just wanted to kind of show off the team a little bit. Our VP, Nathan, heads us up. You might be familiar with Lisa Cross. She's been in the print industry for over 2 decades, primarily on the commercial and wide format side, but you might be familiar with Lisa. Our economics team is Andy Paparazzi, who's been in the industry for a very long time as well and is a brilliant economic mind. Our newest member, Onamika Dar, has been with the team almost 2 years now and is absolutely a rising star. So if you have any economics questions, be sure to reach out to Andy and Onamika. They're a fantastic resource. And Evan is a exceptionally skilled data analyst. He does all of our charts, all of our data analysis. So, and then of course there's me there. But if you guys are familiar with NAPCO and Printing United, a lot of times the 6 of us are kind of behind the scenes digging into data, so I wanted to give a quick shout out to the team. About the study. So, as I mentioned, the study, we've kind of revived it. We launched our first edition in 2018 called Digital Packaging, The Time Is Now, when the technology was really starting to ramp up. We brought it back in 23, and then this year's study is our 3rd iteration of it. We're going to keep it annual going forward. And the objectives of the study really are to gauge adoption trends, drivers, and really just kind of a full spectrum view of what's going on with digital printing. And the key here is that we're getting insights from package printers and converters across all segments and brand owners. So our survey is going to converters and brands to get kind of that full perspective view of the impact that the technology is having. So last fall, we launched our 2 surveys to converters, package printers, converters, and brands. We got over 100 package printers responding. Again, it spanned all segments. Today, I did segment out our label responses in a few areas. We had 44 primarily label printer respondents, so not the largest sample size from label specifically, but where it made sense, I did segment that out. So we'll show some label specific data today, and then just over 130 brands responded as well. And I also just wanted to pause here a little bit with a sort of disclaimer. We're going to talk a lot about digital throughout this presentation. The objective of this study is not to promote one technology over the other. It's not to promote digital as taking over conventional or anything along those lines. Really, what comes out of this is just how important it is to strategically pair the technologies, digital, conventional, use them both where they make the most sense, and leverage their capabilities to the best of their strengths. So, again, I just wanted to kind of provide that disclaimer. I'm not advocating for one technology over the other, saying one is going to take over, but just, as kind of the sort of newer technology, one that's continuing to emerge throughout the industry, and as part of the Digital Packaging Summit, we like to dig into what's going on in that technology and share some updates there. So, quick disclaimer on that end. So to get rolling, let's talk about adoption. So we asked, this is our full sample size. We asked all of our converters that responded to the survey, just, of all of the printing technologies that your company uses in-house to print labels and packaging, what are you using? And this doesn't necessarily represent volume or total number of jobs or anything along those lines. It's just, are you using any of these technologies at all? And what we see is, digital and conventional adoption is fairly comparable. Just over half say they're using some level of inkjet. Further down, over 30% said they've invested in hybrid, which I thought was interesting to see. Plenty of usage of toner technologies, dry toner, liquid EP as well. And then, over 10% as well have invested in hybrid retrofit, which we've seen some really good increase in the amount of technology available on that front. So again, the adoption rates are fairly similar, which is great to see. People are strategizing using digital and conventional in tandem, best of their abilities. Segmenting out the, and there's our Flexo respondents, should have paused there, but again, kind of demonstrating that the adoption rates are similar on the Flexo side as well, compared to where we see digital. Segmenting out the label respondents, we see similar data, similar results. So again, our digital responses, a lot of inkjet, whether that's production level inkjet or just coding and marking. Over half of our label printers that responded are using inkjet to some degree, and then around a quarter on the hybrid side, as well as the EP. So again, very similar. And then of course, Flexo, we have 48% using 24-inch or wider, 41% using narrow web equipment. So again, similar adoption rates. People are using both technologies, which is great to see that it's being utilized in tandem to the best of their abilities. So what's driving investment? So we asked converters if they've planned to make an investment in digital printing technology in the next 24 months. Over 60% indicated that yes, they are planning to make an investment in digital within the next 2 years. And what's driving that technology? So after we got that yes or no answer, we asked, what are the packaging applications that you expect to use with your newly installed digital press? Select all that apply. And right at the top, we see labels really driving that decision to invest in digital technology. Pressure sensitive, 42%, cut and stack labels, 32%. And then we even see a lot of response as well for some of the more specialty applications like in-mold at 20, heat transfer at 18%. Shrink sleeves are on there as well, 10% roughly, just under, so they're looking to do some shrink sleeve. Now, this could be part of our sample size. We did have 44% respondents that were specifically label printers, so that could be driving that. But great to see that label still kind of remains that kind of key indicator of where digital print is heading in the label and packaging industry, and that the technology is really kind of leading the way in the label segment. So that was interesting to see that where those investments are going is largely to produce labels. So now we know what's going on in terms of adoption, investment, what converters are thinking about as far as pairing these technologies together. So then we asked the respondents that had already invested in digital. So these numbers here come from our respondent base of printers and converters that have told us that they've already invested in digital printing to some degree. We asked them to provide their most important benefits that digital brings to their business and to select their top 5. So I've shown the top 6 results here because there was a tie in there at 30%. But what we see is not entirely surprising in terms of what some of those benefits are. The fast turnarounds, the quick changeovers, that type of thing was the number 1 response at 35%. Cost reduction, of course, an important one with the elimination of plate and tooling production and the costs associated there. But then we get into some more of the optimization and some of the efficiency benefits, better optimization and use of all of our production equipment. At about a third of respondents overall said that was a top benefit. So again, kind of goes back to the important takeaway that digital and conventional are really best paired together, and making that investment helps to make that optimization. So that was great to see. Versioning, of course, a big one, and we'll get into some specific data around versioning in a bit. The sustainability component, which is an important one, there are some waste reduction benefits there, and some good sustainability attributes to the technology. And then personalization, which has kind of a niche to it, but 30% roughly saying the ability to personalize labels and packaging has been a top benefit. So good to see people thinking creatively about what they can do with the technology as well. Okay, so let's turn the page a little bit to the brand owners and what they're telling us and what some of the trends are from their side of the equation that are helping to drive digital and drive kind of some of this investment in label and package printing. So, the first thing I wanted to show on the brand side is where their challenges lie. We asked our brand owner respondents, and this spanned all different segments from CPG to, pharmaceutical. So these are brands coming from all sides of the equation here. We asked, what are your top packaging challenges? And, give us your top 5. So, right at the top, we see designing packaging that influences purchasing, improving their own efficiency and responsiveness, and meeting sustainability goals and objectives, 37% there, saying that that's their top packaging challenges. But rounding out that list as well, implementing more durability or functionality in their packaging, managing the amount of product versions that they have, and handling those increasing short time to market requirements that are being pressed on the brand owners. And then, as converters, I'm sure you guys are feeling that as well, that quick turnaround, short time requirements. So, again, all of those I feel like are kind of related in that there's a need for efficiency, there's a need for managing increased number of versions and getting that through a facility, and really making the whole supply chain more optimized, more efficient. And we know based on what we've seen from digital that there are advantages that the technology brings to the table there. So interesting to see what brands are listing as their top challenge and how that can correlate to the usage of digital printing in label and packaging production workflow. So from there, we then asked brand owners who are utilizing digital printing. We asked, as a brand, do you know if your package printer or converter that you're working with utilizes digital printing? These are the respondents that said yes, they are. And what was interesting to see was when we asked what the top benefits of that technology was that they were receiving, right at the top, more than half of respondents said, getting those cost-effective short runs and increasing the speed to market, those efficiency benefits, were the number 1 and 2 overall results of this question. What are the top benefits as a brand that digital is bringing to you? So, again, it's that efficiency, it's getting those short runs produced cost-effectively and quickly, and getting to market, in a more efficient, more rapid manner. Those were the number 1 benefits that the brands were telling us that they're getting from the technology, which was interesting to see because it was above the creative benefits that digital is bringing to the table. So, we talk about so much the ability to, do the versioning, do the personalization, do the customization of labels and packaging, and how that can be, a real game changer, and it absolutely can. And brands are indicating that that is important. 42% saying that that's a top benefit is certainly a substantial amount of our respondents here. But it's not number 1. It's not as important to them as getting those short runs produced effectively and increasing their speed to market. And then again, a third saying ability to change designs more frequently, not being locked into a specific design, being able to have that flexibility, being able to have that, nimbleness to transition their designs and their labels and packaging more frequently. So again, all important, definitely all keys to the brand owners in terms of the benefits that they're getting from the technology. But when you're thinking about how it's serving the brand owner, it's that efficiency that's weighing out just slightly ahead of some of those creative benefits, which again, I thought was really interesting to see from our brand owner respondents. So then we asked, just in general, just taking everything else off the table, we had a big list, and you can see the full list. I'm just going to show a segment of the chart in this slide. What are you looking for in a printer? Please rate the level of importance of this big list of attributes in selecting a label or package printer when you're going out there and sourcing a packaging supplier. What's important to you? So I'm going to show the top 3 responses based on those that responded essential, which we'll see in the blue portion of these charts. So number 1 which was interesting because we just talked about how efficiency has kind of been that preeminent benefit, but number 1 in terms of essential is being able to produce personalized or variable packaging, as 46% deeming that to be essential, which was really interesting to see. And not all brands, of course, are doing personalized packaging. That's kind of a rarity, kind of a niche. But what this shows me is that brands at least want to know that they have that option. They have the ability to do that if they deem that it's necessary. Similar with variability, of course, that's a little bit easier to think about, changing up designs, adding new flavors, adding new SKUs, being able to add those to a product mix and a packaging line, very important to brands. Number 2 was being able to provide online ordering capabilities, 42% saying essential, in the black, 39% saying very important. So brands want to be able to go online to place their orders, which again, I thought that was interesting as well, taking some of the control of the purchasing process into their own hands. And then third, which was also interesting to see, was just straight up offers production level digital printing, 39% saying essential, just about half saying that that's very important, and really just 1% saying that that's not important at all. So again, not everyone's using it, not everyone is having digital printing as part of their packaging strategy, but a large percentage here of our brand owner respondents saying that they want to at least have that option available to them when they're going out to source labels and packaging. The rest of this chart is really interesting to see where brands are kind of placing their priorities, but I wanted to show these top 3, and be sure to check out the full report to get all of the responses to this question. But an interesting top 3, and I think goes again to the importance of thinking about having digital as part of the overall strategy. Okay, so let's talk about some of those top priorities, top advantages that digital is bringing to the table when we're thinking about strategizing with the technology and pairing it with conventional, implementing it into the workflow. And that's those efficiency benefits and the versioning advantages as well. Okay, so going back to the converter side of the survey, and this is a cut specifically from our label printing respondents, and I wanted to cut this one just by the label printers because it did follow overall a very similar trajectory to the rest of the packaging segments that we surveyed as well. So we asked converters, thinking about the efficiency of your production process, which of this list presents the most significant challenges to your business? Give us your top three. And right at the top, we see a bunch of similar options, all above 30%, with more than half saying those changeover times between jobs is the top efficiency challenge that they're facing, or at least in their top three. And then in those that are 30% or higher, keeping up with increased versioning, increased SKUs, 39% in efficiency of older equipment, and workflow optimization across the board, pre-press printing and finishing, 36%, and then slowdowns or bottlenecks in finishing, 32%. So interesting results here, certainly speaks to the advantages that digital can provide, especially when we look at the top two, those changeover times between jobs, and then keeping up with the increased versioning or increased SKUs that they're experiencing. So when you have more jobs, more versions flowing through a facility, you have to produce more changeovers, you have to get those new jobs on press quicker, and then being able to do that with the reduced changeover times that digital provides, certainly a benefit. Keep those high volume long runs on conventional where there's maybe fewer changeovers necessary. But as those versions and SKUs are increasing, being able to leverage the advantage that digital can provide can be really beneficial. So once we got a sense of where those challenges were from converters' efficiency perspective, we asked, okay, what are you doing about it? What are your strategies that you're implementing to work through these efficiency difficulties? And what was interesting was right at the top was some of the investments that they're making. So 52% have installed digital printing equipment to contend with some of those efficiency challenges. What was great to see was that half of the respondents here, and again, this is just from our label respondents, but check out the full report to see from the entire packaging industry, it's very similar results. Half of our label respondents said that adding digital finishing or converting equipment was an action that they have taken to enhance their production efficiency. And I wanted to actually pause on that one because that's been a key theme of the Digital Packaging Summit in the 10 years that we've hosted that event, is thinking about the finishing component in addition to the printing. We talk about digital printing and all of the great technology that's come to the forefront there. But if you're not thinking about how you're going to finish or convert that printed work, and you end up having to produce your high volume, long run work through the same sort of finishing process as some of the lower volume, short run stuff, that's where you can run into some bottlenecks and some slowdowns in the production process there. So it was good to see converters making that investment, and then upgrading or investing in software to help manage those increased versions, increased number of jobs, increased SKUs that they're having to contend with. So again, they're turning to digital technologies to enhance their efficiency, optimize their production strategies, and really keep things flowing in the best way possible, strategizing with conventional on the high volume stuff, and then on the more high complexity, quick changeover, more SKUs type of work, turning to digital for that. So interesting to see where those challenges are and what converters are doing as a solution to those challenges. Okay, so let's talk about those increased SKUs and versioning, because what's happening was really interesting to see. So as I mentioned, we've done this study a few times. We change it up every year a little bit. But question that we asked in 2023 and again in 2024 was going back to brands. We asked brand owners, which of the following describes the quantity of your packaging SKUs over the past 24 months? In 2023, 41% said their SKUs increased. So pretty substantial. That's a high number of brands saying, hey, we've upped our number of SKUs. And that's going to then put pressure on converters to turn those around. What was really interesting, and again, this is a different survey, different sample size, but I think is reflective of how brands are thinking about their product lines. What happened in 2024 was 79% of our brand owner respondents said that their SKUs increased over the past 24 months. Now, again, there could be a lot that went into that. Thinking about maybe 23, we did ask for them to think about 2 years past. So that would put them in 21 when there was still some pandemic influence going on where product lines actually consolidated a little bit. So that could have had an impact on it. But again, when I see these numbers and I see what happened this year and how brands are thinking about their product lines, their SKUs, and and seeing almost 80% of our brand respondents saying that they've opted, that was really eye-opening to me and just shows that that's kind of what brands are thinking about in terms of their product lines and where they see their packaging going forward. So again, interesting to see that that SKU proliferation. We've been talking about it for many years, but on the rise for sure. So then we asked the brands who said that they expect to see an increase in SKUs. Why? Why do you think that's going to happen? And we see our video here of some different SKUs getting run on press. But the top answers from brand owners who indicated that they expected to see an increase in SKUs in the next 2 years. I'm going to show the top few answers here. So number one was consumers. Consumer demand for more variety in their product mix. 55% say this is consumer driven. They want more options. They want more flavors. They want more variety. Number two was keeping up with the competition. Our competitors are putting more products out there, more versions, more flavors, and we need to keep pace. Right after that was increasing the amount of limited edition products or packaging designs. So they're thinking about, what can we put out there as a limited edition option, switch it out maybe by season, seasonal versions of a beverage or food item based around holiday seasons, things like that. Brands are looking to increase the amount of, limited edition options they're putting out into the market. At number 4 was a tie, and I thought number 4 was really interesting as well. 36% of brands that said they expect an increase in SKUs in the next 2 years said that printing technology that allows for cost-effective short runs was a key driver, and the ability to produce packaging on demand, being able to go out there and do this packaging quickly. So what this tells me is brands are becoming more aware of what digital printing can do and the technology that can allow them to increase their SKUs and increase their versions. And that's been really encouraging for me, and especially having been part of the Digital Packaging Summit over the last decade that we've hosted that event. When we first launched that event in 2015, we had brands come up on stage and speak, and one of their biggest complaints, for lack of a better term, was they weren't getting that education. They weren't learning about what digital could do for them and the advantages that it could bring to the table. And what this indicates to me, with the third saying, we're aware of this technology and we know we can get packaging on demand, and that's going to drive our packaging strategy, was encouraging that education gap is being bridged. So I thought that was really interesting to see. And then the last one here, again, shorter production development cycles and life cycles. So, as products are getting, cycled off shelf, being able to replace that quickly. So interesting drivers here in terms of why brands are increasing their SKUs. Largely consumer driven. Consumers want more options. But again, there is that technology component that they know that they can do this now, which was cool to see. All right, so talking about some of the sales advantages and what printers are seeing there. This first slide, wanted to show this one. We asked converters, and this comes from everyone, the entire sample size of label and packaging printers that have told us that they are printing digital and responded to our survey. We asked what percentage of overall sales come from digitally printed labels and packaging. It averaged to around 63%. I wanted to provide a little bit of a disclaimer on this slide, just that, again, we have just over 100 responses here, so it's a fairly, not the largest sample size of the industry. I'm also thinking about rephrasing this question for next year, maybe thinking about either profit or revenue, because sales could mean different things. It could be number of jobs. It might not be totally correlated to volume. But what was interesting to me just from this slide was that, a good chunk of converter sales that are using digital are coming from digital. So that was my key takeaway there, but I'm going to think about rephrasing this question for our study this year. But maybe more importantly, I wanted to show this slide where we asked those converters that are using digital over the next 2 years, how do you expect your company's sales of digitally printed labels and packaging to change? And 2/3 said that they expect an increase in digital print sales, largely between 1 to 20% increase. With what was most encouraging, only 4% saying that they're going to see that they expect to see a sales drop off. So, again, those that are using digital printing in their workflow are seeing strong sales, and they're telling us that, for the most part, they expect to see sales of digitally printed labels and packaging increase over the next 2 years. So again, really encouraging and shows that the technology is certainly proving its viability across the packaging segments. Okay, so just to close out, wanted to provide just a few key trends that came out of this research effort as well, and I thought would be relevant to share with the group today. So the first one, of course, is sustainability. That's obviously a huge topic in the label and packaging segment. I wanted to share a few key results that have come from this study and some other research that we've done. So going back to the brands and this study in particular, we asked, as I showed earlier, this comes from that slide where I showed those 3 pie charts of those top priorities that brands are looking for when they're looking at label and package printers. This comes from that question as well, and I wanted to show this portion as it pertains to sustainability. So, on the top bar here, we see 87% of brand owner respondents are telling us that printers and converters that have a strong grasp of current packaging regulations and legislation is either essential or very important. That, of course, extends beyond sustainability as well. But as we see regulations and legislation pertaining to sustainability, brands want to work with printers that have a good understanding of that and how it may impact their business and the impacts that it could have on them down the line. So working with a printer converter that really has a good education, good grasp, good understanding of what's going on from a regulatory and legislative perspective is very important to our brand owner respondents. And then what was also interesting was 74% of brands responding here said that having that documented sustainability information or environmental record was essential or very important. So, just saying, hey, we have sustainable practices, we have, used these materials or used these inks or have upgraded our lighting, that's all well and good, but brand owners want to see that documented results of those efforts, what you're doing, being able to actually show them, hey, we can, reduce emissions by X% or, whatever it may be. They want to see something tangible when it comes to sustainability information or an environmental record. Saying it is one thing, but being able to prove it with that documentation, with those numbers, is really, coming to the forefront of their decision-making process. And then on the converter side, we asked them, what percentage of your customers have shown you that they have defined and documented sustainability objectives for their packaging? And what was interesting to see was 47% of our converter respondents from across the packaging spectrum stated that more than half of their customers are coming to them with defined and documented sustainability goals for their packaging. So brands are working on this, they're creating objectives, and they're bringing them to their printer and converter partners. And just touching back on something I showed earlier, 37% of brand owners report that meeting these sustainability objectives are a top challenge. So being able to help solve them, getting their goals and understanding them, very important to be able to solve that key challenge. And then just on the consumer side, I wanted to show this as well. This is something I shared at the Printing United Expo. I did a little presentation on sustainability and packaging, and I collected these consumer stats from the Recycling Partnership, as well as a study from Statista. But 78% of consumers are looking at recycling information on a product or a package. So they're looking at that information on the package in their hand. If they're not sure if it can be recycled and they don't know what to do with it, more than half of consumers are looking to the label and packaging for those instructions, which is good to see that they're looking at packaging for that information. I also thought this was a really interesting stat, that more than 80% of consumers state that it's dishonest to deem a package recyclable if it's not going to be recyclable. Now, it's kind of a double-edged sword in a bit because if it's recyclable and the package says it's recyclable, then that's accurate, but they want to know, is this actually going to be recyclable? And that's where I think we see some cool things like the How to Recycle label, providing some more substantial instructions on how to actually recycle it correctly, which I thought was interesting. And then just the last consumer stat, about half of consumers claim they're aiming to avoid products with excess packaging, and they're actively looking to do that in their buying process. Next key trend I wanted to highlight here is e-commerce. This is something that, of course, Lene talked about. We all get Amazon packages frequently, to say the least. So I wanted to highlight some things we're seeing on the e-commerce side. So going back to the digital study, this is from the brand survey. We asked brands, are you selling your products through some sort of e-commerce channel? 88% of brand owners said yes, we are. Then we asked them about their e-commerce strategies. And what was interesting to see was that more than half claim that they are implementing some sort of personalized packaging by obtaining consumer data like names, previous purchases, or other identifying behavior. 51% are thinking about the unboxing experience. So, a lot of times brands might think, well, if we're selling it online, consumers not seeing the packaging, maybe we can, scale back the packaging a little bit. May not be the case. More than half say they're thinking about that unboxing experience that the packaging gives the consumer when they receive the package at their house. And then 49% are increasing their durability. There's more touch points in shipment. Who knows what's happening along that delivery supply chain. So increasing that durability, which I thought was interesting from a label perspective, because maybe there's an increased adhesive or something to make sure that that label's not getting stuck or peeled off along the way. Just a fun example that I wanted to show. I showed this at the Digital Packaging Summit as well. This is a small brand called Odomot. It's a tomato sauce, and that's tomato backwards. That my wife and I like. We saw this in store, thought it had a fun label. So we bought a jar. I went on their website. I was curious to learn more, and I saw, not even knowing that I studied digital printing and packaging, that they offer an ability to put your name in and get a personalized label. So that's exactly what I did. I couldn't resist. And this is not something that every brand's going to do. But I wanted to show this because it's fun. It's an option. Brands are thinking about it, and it's a good option for digital. So, of course, anything personalized, I'm probably going to go for it. But again, just thinking about how e-commerce and online purchasing is changing the game a little bit. I bought our first jar in store, wasn't personalized, of course, but then went on their website and got my personalized label. So I thought that was a cool example. Last trend that I want to highlight was AI. At NAPCO Research, we've actually done a lot of investigation into AI in the print industry. Check out on our site, we have a study out called AI in the Printing Industry, The Journey Begins, which is a deep dive into AI across all of print. That's another free download. You can get that either on Packaging Impressions or on printing.org is the Alliance's website. But I wanted to show some packaging data specifically on AI from our study. So we asked printers and converters, this is again across all packaging, what is your current usage status of AI in a number of following areas? And I'll show a full list in a second, but these were the top 2 where printers are saying that they're currently using AI. That's in the blue. PR and marketing and content generation. So that's kind of a lower barrier to entry, easy way to get the feet wet in terms of AI. So that was encouraging to see that more 20% or more have started using it in these areas and are thinking about how they can implement it in their workflow. But then in the black, we asked, we're not using AI now, but we plan to use AI in these areas in the future. What happened there was really interesting, where we see 32% in printing and production, planning to bring AI into that process in the future, and then in R&D as well. So again, that's not where they're using it currently. It's a little more challenging, a little higher barrier to entry, but they're thinking about it and they plan to use AI in these areas. And then the last little bit of data here, I did do the label cuts for this question because I thought it would be interesting to show TLMI what label printers are doing and thinking about. And very similar, the top 2 or top 3, I should say, of current usage of AI is in PR and marketing, customer service, so that could be like chatbots or using AI in that area to some degree, and in content generation, like website blogs, social media posts, things like that. That's where our label respondents say they're currently using AI. And then similarly, I did a cut here to show the top answers of where they plan to in the future. Very similar, top 2 being printing and production and R&D, but I also thought it was interesting that just about a third here said in sales and prospecting, which is interesting. And in our other study, we showed that there are tools that you can scrape LinkedIn or other social media sites to get sales, get prospects, and there are AI tools that can do that. So it was good to see that label printers are thinking in that direction as well. So just to wrap up, some quick conclusions. Digital printing, they've proven to be ideal complements of conventional printing technologies. Adoption rates show similarities. So, what that indicates to us is that converters really view both as being essential for their future. So, great to see that. That's, what kind of the industry thought when digital first hit the scene, and that seems to be panning out. Brand owners, they recognize the power that digital can bring to their businesses. That education gap has closed. They're learning, they understand what digital can do. That we see increased versions, we see expectation of that going forward, and they know that they can utilize this technology to satisfy that. For converters, just keep an eye on some of those trends: sustainability, e-commerce, AI, of course, personalization, versioning. These are trends that seem to be on the rise. So just make sure you're watching that, strategizing around increases there. And then lastly, we see those sales expected to increase from digital. So make sure you're leveraging those strategies to handle all of those key converter challenge or brand challenges, and helping them maximize what is driving their strategies going forward. So again, those are some of the key takeaways from our report. Definitely check out the full study. It should be at the registration desk as a takeaway for everyone here, as well as a free download from our website. So I think that should wrap for me. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time, and appreciate everyone participating in the study. Thank you. Thanks, Dale.